So welcome everybody. This is the Hypergraph Hour, kind of the connecting point for all things Constellation Network, where we talk about the roadmap of Constellation. We do deep dives into technology, business partners, what we're doing on the enterprise side, all the way down to articulating our vision and how that relates to the crypto world and tying that all into Lattice. And so it tends to be overwhelming for a lot of people. And so what we like to do is for those of you first time coming in here is talk about the nuances, allow us to unfold our narrative and share kind of our insights on the space and how things are developing within our ecosystem. And really this is kind of put on for our community. So we do this every week. We're actually getting in a really good pattern of doing this every week. And now we're going to start inviting some of our collaborators that we're working with, other visionaries in the space, to show how they connect into our ecosystem and give you a little more insight into that. So today we're pretty excited. We've got Tim Frost, CEO of Yield App, and Tim is a veteran entrepreneur, has dipped in crypto and banking and back and forth, and we've been working with them because they have a really good vision of where the maturity of this of crypto is going. So I'm pretty excited to do this conversation because it's going to be a little more of a dialogue on Tim's vision, how does that connect into our ecosystem, and really present a perspective of what we're always striving for, which is kind of that institutional grade ecosystem. So you'll have to excuse me all, it's a little early on my time and I'm just having my first cup of coffee, but it's about 3 shots and full coffee. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tim Frost. Maybe Tim, you can say hello and kind of give us a little background that's a little more robust on what I just said.
No, thanks, Ben. Just excited to be here today with you and Mateus. And I've been kind of following you guys with Lattice and Constellation for quite a while. And it's great to see everything you guys are doing over there. And we're great to kind of embark on some ventures together into the near future. So as I said, I'm the CEO of Yield App. We started Yield App and officially kind of kicked us off in August this year. And I have a kind of a background in growing fintech companies. I had my first fintech digital bank in 2015. I was part of the founding team at Wyrix, and so it was over 3.5 million clients today. And I kind of left that after the first year and a half when things got really kind of, I guess, a bit normalized. And I started kind of my own, I guess, it was intended to be like a fintech kind of accelerator, just to kind of work with getting early stage fintech companies off the ground. Worked with a lot of great fintech and blockchain companies. And spent the last couple of years actually helping a digital challenger bank take them to market before really getting involved in DeFi on just about a year ago, and kind of a personal interest, just trying to find out what was really happening into the space. And then I just really I have kind of a love-hate relationship a little bit with crypto space, like I think some do. But I was really, I guess, entranced when I really ran into DeFi, when you start to see this market really start to evolve, and what smart contract and essentially what it can allow us to do. And so I just started to understand this, and I guess it's a daily kind of learning event, just to kind of grasp everything that's happening and what can be done with this. And overall, like what my kind of specialty was how do we essentially take this, what was growing, what we see as like this awesome, opportunity, and kind of package this up and be able to offer this to a much broader audience. So kind of fast forward, and in August, we decided that we were going to start Yield App, and kind of got a team, started assembling the team together, and then officially launched actually it's almost 1 month ago since our public launch now. So we kind of get out the gate. We got our first kind of MVP kind of out to market right now. Yield App 2.0 is under development right now, as it has to be. And we've passed almost about 20,000 clients now, and about 24 million kind of AUM has been coming in, and it's been a whirlwind. Wow. So quite fast.
Just 1 month. Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank
you. For those of you, before I hand it over to Matthias, I wanted to just share that what Tim's doing in fintech is no easy feat. I have been to a handful of fintech conferences, and I get sweaty palms because of how many people are trying to do something in fintech, and it's such a big industry. So to have the experience on how to navigate that is just so essential. I mean, Tim, I can't go to a fintech conference. They are just so overwhelming to me. So I give you so many props for figuring that whole path out time and time again. So it's cool to see the adoption already of Yield App at such an early stage.
Thanks. It's I guess I don't know, it feels so natural, right? When you obviously, it's never an easy path, and you never know where it's going to go, and it never turns out as you kind of vision, right? You have lots of turns along the way, but I think if you can find a client and solve a problem, right, you can find a customer segment that you can serve.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, Matt, I really appreciate you laying out that journey and also being honest with kind of the ambivalence or the craziness that can happen in this industry. And what I've seen, I mean, you're an outstanding entrepreneur. You had exits on your belt, and you had quite some success in your past. So being in crypto now, I mean, it looks like a progression of the journey that makes a lot of sense. But when I look at your path, what really interests me is what did you see in the very beginning in terms of that crypto journey? You've been weaving out of finance and then digital banking and then in and out of crypto. And I think that kind of mirrors your ambivalence a little bit as well. What did you see in the early ages when you joined crypto? What did you see there as a value promise or the rainbow on the horizon? What was that for you that drew you in?
Well, initially what kind of attracted me, like probably most people, just to look for an opportunity at that point. But then just when I got involved, 2014 was kind of really the first time I really got really involved in crypto, and then initially was looking at trading, but then it became just you could use money to use digital currencies to kind of solve a problem. And the first one, I think, just the one time I think it really clicked, right, was making a cross-border transaction to a third world country, and you could do it instantly, you could do it basically it was free, and it solved a problem where there was kind of lacking with some kind of capital controls. And I think that was the time it really clicked, and I was like, wow, this is you don't really trust it to that point, right? And you weren't really sure what was going to happen, but you're able to acquire it, send it. It was received. It was, liquidated in a local market, and it worked. And it worked even, not smooth, but it worked better than I think any other means of transferring money at that time. So it was, that was Bitcoin. That was in early days where it was different. It was very challenging, I would say. But at that point, it really started to become apparent that it was, that this had a place that it had definitely belonged.
That's amazing. It's like that silver sliver on the horizon, right? So the entrepreneurial mindset sees something that is emergent. You see that something there, and you can grasp it, but then it really takes a long while for these things to develop. I mean, we are all in this industry visionaries in the sense of that we're pushing the envelope on something that we may not fully understand into what that thing is actually going to blossom into the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I still can't even believe how this has already evolved, this whole industry. I said it has, it's kind of, it's very dramatic, I would say, on everything it can be. But yeah, when it's good, it can be great. And yes, to see how people are developing in every single even corner of this industry is just pretty incredible. But now it's evolved so much. I mean, you see so many practical applications that are used in daily life, which is, I mean, so it's past that chasm, right, where we're looked at as, crazy weirdos, just a few years ago, and now, everyone's trying to figure out how they can actually get involved. So it's good to be on the right side of history.
Absolutely. I remember that time when so I got similar to you very early into Bitcoin, and for a similar reason. I had friends in the US and I was looking, okay, how can I send money actually much more efficiently than using any of these traditional money transfer services or banks, and there are all these complications that are associated with, and that's how I stumbled upon Bitcoin. Very, very similar story. And then with Ethereum, I told people, well, this is going to be New York Times headlines in 2 years. And even like developers and friends back in the day, they looked at me with a blank face and were like, dude, what are you smoking? So I can relate to that very well. And I mean, a couple of things you mentioned there are so many points I would love to kind of like focus in on. But one aspect that stands out to me is that you kind of like touch upon is sovereignty, right? So the sovereignty of sending funds across borders to have custody over your own, financial power, your financial freedom. And is that one of the points when we're talking Yield App and DeFi? I mean, in a way, you could say DeFi is kind of like the MP3 of finance in a way. And how does Yield App and the vision of Yield App fit into this very, right now, still kind of like Cambrian explosion, volatile ecosystem? How does Yield App fit in there with a value proposition, and also in regards to financial sovereignty, maybe?
We're really trying to focus on being a bridge from, I said, you've kind of heard these things a lot, the CeFi for DeFi, and that's really where we're aiming to provide value for the industry overall. The reality is like is amazing as it is to control your own keys and be able to handle your own money. My standpoint, and just from experience until it's not a thing, but most people shouldn't be controlling their own money. And financial institutions need to exist, but it's a progression, right? And the younger generation, they grow up with technology. They have their phone in their hand 24 hours a day. Like controlling their own keys and their own wealth is going to become pretty commonplace, I predict. But I think these things happen, feels like they happen so fast, but it does happen quite slow, and it's going to maybe take a generation or two to get to that point. So, tapping into DeFi. I mean, DeFi is I guess the potential of what this is going to be is it's almost endless, and it's kind of almost cliche just to kind of talk about what that is. But we're really focusing on like, how do we like bring 1 million people into this world, right? And just give them a taste where they know on the back end they're getting exposed to DeFi, they're earning their yields in DeFi, they have ability to kind of hedge their money in different denominations, depending on where they're at in the world. I mean, they can, eventually we can, build denominate, obviously Bitcoin, Ether, and US dollar kind of stable coins, but just to give people options. So really on that bridge. And I think right now we're going to see, tens of millions of people start to move into this, right? And that's still a very small amount of people on a kind of global scale. But we just, I guess our vision is to introduce this to many new people. And I might project that many people they'll come to us, they'll open accounts, they'll start DeFiing right on Yield App, which And then they'll start to realize, well, what is actually DeFi? And then they'll eventually migrate away from us and start interacting directly on the kind of more protocol levels.
Wow. So that's basically what you're doing is an easy landing point for people to get their feet wet while not having the headaches of, losing their coins and private keys. So you're fully licensed. So that's kind of like a really great step for people to enter the ecosystem without having to have something on balance or curve and unstake, stake, and all these things. So they plug in, they KYC with you, they get going, they wire funds or send crypto, and off they go with an API earning strategy. Is that correct?
It is similar, and I would say that's pretty much nailing it on the head where we're kind of focused on, because it's more than just controlling your own keys. And I think at Lattice, I think you guys understand it's the barrier to entry, right? So the reality is you can't participate in DeFi unless you have a bankroll, and that barrier to entry should not be like that. And so until protocols like Lattice and are up and people are able to fully use and be able to, I guess, people can be able to control and manage and move and trade their money for virtually nothing. And until this happens, which it is happening quite quick, and with the likes of yourselves and Binance Smart Chain and so much that's happening right now.
Tim, one of the things that we really share in common between each other's ecosystem is the passion for the entrepreneur, the end entrepreneur. And, in many ways, you guys are pushing the envelope to make it safe to have crypto holdings. And for Constellation, we're building out our DAG terminal that allows really kind of this framework for any entrepreneur to build a business on a blockchain. And we kind of marry that with the idea of WordPress and giving everybody the ability to build a website and not just have it for some technical elite like it happened in the late 1990s, but really open that floodgate up so that everybody has an address. And so we're all kind of pushing this vision because the entrepreneur is the one that will bring this to light and making it super easy and safe to build in blockchain. And so one of our conversations that we had last week was kind of your approach to embracing projects that raise in crypto, that are building solutions. And we kind of marry that along with our vision to be able to mint a token. Can you talk? Do you feel comfortable talking a little bit more about how you're approaching the kind of blockchain entrepreneur and creating the safeguards around the capital they raised that wasn't around 2 years ago, which really shows so much maturity in the space?
Yeah, absolutely. And, had been in the industry in 2017, and you had seen, we had seen a lot of value come in and a lot of value almost kind of disintegrate in such a short period of time. And so, yeah, treasury management is absolutely kind of something we're actually just launching right now. And we're kind of encouraging because, in the end, right, if you're building a company, you should not have to worry about how do you, that's treasury management, I guess, is one area that you shouldn't have to focus on. Having this as an offering, and we'd love to offer kind of different projects and companies, build to earn up to 20% APY, like on their treasury, and obviously just continue to, I guess, properly manage it. So, I said we've seen these firsthand, and we're going to see market cycles again, right? And so the ones that the winners are going to be the ones that do a lot of things right. But one is obviously runway. As long as you can keep building, you're always in the game, right? So, but a lot of that is just proper diligence on your own side and your own team. And we really want to help projects do this, and we just, whether it's with us or however it is. But I think that's the kind of the amazing thing that's kind of emerged out of this is just now these are options, right? To be able to earn on your crypto. This concept has really just emerged over the last few years, and it's now become quite common and so powerful, right? So you don't you don't have to go out of crypto. You can stay into the ecosystem overall and keep building. And if you plan out properly, you can kind of build that kind of indefinite runway.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. That really fits very neatly with the entire ecosystem thinking and ecosystem approach. I mean, we've talked a bunch about Lattice with each other and the Constellation Hypergraph ecosystem. So what we're doing on Lattice is, also we will be enabling entrepreneurs, and maybe some people can see here why we're having this conversation and why Tim and YieldApp is such an interesting relationship to nurture, because they are thinking on the financial part of ecosystems. So there's this play on the retail and customer side, but what does that translate actually into? Which means, like you mentioned, it's AUM. But what do you do then once you have AUM, right? How do you further an ecosystem? How do you deploy that, and how do you open pathways for others to actually expand upon that, and in that way you expanding your services back into the ecosystem, so it becomes that self-perpetuating loop almost, right?
It definitely is. So I think where do we do with the funds? I guess my question back to you, Matthias, what exactly was your question on that?
No, I mean, I was just basically wrapping up kind of like these two perspectives. Okay. Retail, what does that translate into AUM, and how does that reflect back to in a product vision? Because you mentioned in the beginning that there's YieldApp 2.0. You kind of like touched upon that a little, and now we're talking about treasury. So my question around that, if you can disclose a little bit around that, is how is your vision going forward? Now you have your retail product, you have AUM, you have a treasury product, and how else do you see that development going into the future, and YieldApp's place in that future within?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, a lot of it's just about, optimization, right? And so, we're built on Ethereum currently. We primarily are built on, we're at the mercy of everything that's happening on Ethereum. And the reality is it isn't a very pleasant place to kind of build, right? It's been where the bulk of the action is right now, but it's just really about optimizing everything. And so we're completely open to working with different providers all over the ecosystem, because when we can limit fees, because all the fees that we have to currently kind of pass on, right, to the end clients, but as we move forward with different kind of layer 2 projects and so much that's happening in the industry, the moving money, transacting with your value should not cost, right? And that's kind of the promise of what we thought we were getting into, right, with these blockchain-based currencies. So, YieldApp 2.0, when this kind of next version's coming out, it's really about optimizing everything and just be able to kind of lower these fees and just taking advantages of we're going to be doing stuff with like Binance Smart Chain in the near future, because the reality is there's limitations there, but they've done a lot of things right. Just be able to limit these fees overall, the way you can kind of be able to transact. And one reason we're so excited about everything that you guys are building with Lattice as well.
Yeah, Tim, I appreciate that, and we're going to definitely hit you up to build on Constellation protocol, but that's a given, right? I had to be the guy to say it, right? Everybody's probably questioning it. They're like, so what is YieldApp going to build on Constellation? But I think it's pretty interesting from a general market perspective. Where do you see the whole market going? I think we get on a call. Funny enough, like every call we have, no matter who it is, whether it's a centralized bank that we're talking to, or an OEM, or even another crypto company. And I think we've even had conversations like where everybody's ending remarks in a way are, where is the market going? And like what you just said around creating a treasury management really plays into the bear market that we had 2.5 years ago, where a lot of people raised money, then it was quickly erased, and many of the top 100, I think maybe 30% of the top 100 are still in existence today because they didn't have sound treasury management. They didn't have the tools.
Yeah.
We didn't have the legal framework. People didn't know how to move money. You didn't have the right operators. So we're hitting like entrepreneurship, treasury management.
Yep.
How do you see kind of what's the bigger difference happening right now, and where do you see kind of the market going in general for everybody out there?
The market is I would say it's much more sane than we've ever seen, or compared to last cycle. There was no just absurd fundraising rounds that happened. And, I said people now I guess the emergence of stable coins and the trust in stable coins has really just been able to, people can lock in value and do it. And there's so much liquidity in the market. So it's I think it's a very good question. You're right. I think we all talk about this all the time. And so you have to understand where it's going, but like, is there a better place to be than in crypto? The real economy is a mess. And, I don't even want to go into, what's
Sure.
really happening in the world. And we all see it and we all know. But the digital market is been on fire, right? But again, there's another $2 trillion bill out. And, so the value of our national currencies is just getting pummeled on a daily basis. And so it's, I think there's more and more trust moving into, like the real idea that, decentralized digital currencies, not only do they have a place, but they might be even safer in a lot of regards. So, I feel like there's a big shift that's happening. I mean, it's hard because everyone likes to measure it on, the price of Bitcoin and Ether. And so that dominates the discussion. But I think, overall it's, it's so much bigger than that. That brings all the attention, that brings people in. But I think what keeps people there and keeps people kind of building it and keeps people excited is just, now there are different opportunities. I said, decentralized finance. I mean, like to me, where would you want to go? Would you, even if you had made some nice gains into your crypto world, and you were holding like some Bitcoin and, they think Bitcoin's going to top out, would you rather, like, where are you going to take it, put it in your bank?
Yeah.
Like for what? Like, or can you put it into some DeFi protocols and actually earn some interest on that and control your money the way you want? Or
Sure.
So I mean, it's it is moving quite quickly. I think overall, I think this is just really getting started. But I think it's going to be, everyone's going to still look at it for the most part with the price movements, right? Which is
one of the interesting things that I've kind of picked up lately is that in 2018 you had a lot of people that weren't in crypto see ERC20 tokens as kind of a PR. We can PR splash. We can raise money because I'm an entrepreneur in San Francisco and this should be easy. And many of the venture firms looked at crypto as an accretive way to bridge the seed to A round. Because in traditional venture, an A round typically means you're doing $1 million in ARR. And then that kind of failed. People didn't know how to do it. They didn't understand the mechanics of a community and how to manage all of that. And so now so all of those actors are out, and I'm starting to see those actors go into SPACs in the equities markets. It's like, and they're like, yeah, we're raising an $800 million SPAC. And I was like, so glad you're out of crypto. We don't really want you. Like, figure out how your land grab is. And then you kind of couple that with what you're saying, which is now we're entering more maturing solutions on managing your crypto and holdings, which is going to invite the right wave of institutional capital. Is that a good way of kind of framing that?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they'll still be coming back, right? Or they're still coming back into the picture. But no, I think the people who really have been building and funding and developing in this, it does mature a lot, and I think it's a much more grounded approach at this time, and I think the ones that have survived are the ones that do understand that to build a successful crypto or fintech company, I mean, there's so many elements, right? Like you touched on there, you have to have a community, and this is, I mean, everything is got to be transparent and trusted, and build a very solid, excited community first, kind of project, and it shows up, and it's kind of real time. You get the real sense, right? Because if you're building something with real value, then you will get people behind you, and vice versa. If you're not, they'll leave, right? And so it's kind of this real time economy, and it's you get the real feedback. So if you've been developing for a couple of years and you got no community, well, check what you're doing, because you're doing something wrong.
Yep, and that real-time feedback is exactly what can also make it pretty painful, right? Because entrepreneurs have to really function on a much different frequency than ever before, because it's like you have to be even more agile and really very responsive to everything that happens, not only in the community but in the market, and then you have to ship a product in addition to that. So.
Yeah, well, the crypto, we're not very patient, I guess, in this world, right? So it's like we launched our ETH fund a week ago, and it's 2 days. Everyone is excited. Oh my God, I can earn up to 20% on my Ether. This is amazing. And then 3 days later, when's the Bitcoin fund? And it's like,
oh yeah,
what? Yeah. Only 20%?
So it's so it's you guys know how much work goes into every release, right? So.
Oh yeah,
it's good. They keep you on your toes, and they keep you moving, right?
Absolutely. Tim, you touched a couple of interesting points. I mean, I could talk hours with you and dive into several of these basically topics that you've sliced there. We don't want to torture you because it's getting very late, but I have one observation and a last question as a concluding type of question. And so one thing that we've seen is, and you remarked that, is, APY earning, financial, control. Where does the economy go with more trust in digital assets, CBDCs, all these topics that are kind of coming on the horizon, and kind of institutionalizing and formalizing the industry in stride with that comes regulation and all these things. But also another thought is, and I just want to hear your comment on that, is what would be if we flip the script, and we've seen that with collateralized lending, for example, when Bitcoin basically becomes, or Ethereum or the top 5 becomes the hard assets in this world, and you never actually exit the crypto system. You just hold Bitcoin and you get your collateral in USD. You finance your operations, whatever you need, and at the end of the day, you get your Bitcoin back and you pay a little bit of interest, which is a very different concept of how loans and finances in general are being approached.
No, it's a very powerful concept. I mean, something we're actively exploring, and something we want to be able to launch ourselves. And on the surface, when you talk to people and they're like, well, why would I over collateralize loan? It's like, well, because you have appreciating assets. And then once you start to dig into it, it's a phenomenal concept to actually be able to, run a business, I guess live your life on and never have to kind of, realize those gains in full, and those potentially taxable events and all that comes with it as well. So no, it is. I mean, this whole digital economy is just growing so fast, and it's amazing just to be part of this and everything that's going on, which is just going to make this whole thing just continue to evolve, because you hit it on, right? I mean, there's going to be a point where people aren't going to have to hold their, or have to sell their Bitcoins and their Ether, because what would you possibly want to hedge that to? That's a realistic future that's coming, and that allows people to still live in the I guess the physical economy,
the real world.
Yes.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective. So one last question for you. So we've talked a lot about finances. We've touched the world economy. We've touched shipping products and the volatility of crypto markets and community. So if we zoom out a little bit of us as entrepreneurs, as tip of the spear in the industry, of being at the forefront of a new movement that will create something new in this world. If we zoom out a little bit from a higher level perspective, maybe 5-10 years into the future, what do you think we as a digital community, as entrepreneurs, what are we actually doing here? What are we creating in terms of a larger societal, global type of like system? What are we doing? And I don't mean that so much from a financial perspective, we've covered it, but more on a society level and then maybe even environmental level. What's going to happen with our world in the future while we're building these technologies? What do you think?
To me, the most exciting thing that we're doing right now, at least the thing I think that's most exciting about what we're doing, particularly here, is we until we've had this, we had the internet, and now this is internet money, and it's still in development. But besides Bitcoin, Ether, you have stable coins, and you have different ways of just storing your value. And now this is unlocked, and this is unlocked for virtually everyone on the planet. And so just the fact that now, majority of the world has a mobile phone now, and this is here. People are moving to be able to control their assets in just different ways that wasn't even really imaginable just a few years ago. And so right now we're working on like a pilot in Nigeria, and we have the Nigerian Naira, and we want to be able to give access to people that can be able to control their money the way they want, right? So whether that's a Bitcoin, Ether, or stable coins and denominated USD or USD or euros, but control the money in the fashion that they want, earn interest on that, and they have these are ways of opting out of their kind of current national currencies, and so this alone I think is why this capital flight that we've always seen, and the governments have clamped down, and they're going to have such a difficult time trying to stop this. And as this just continues to evolve, I mean, if you have an option now and you are sitting in a spot that you don't have this option or haven't had this option, I mean, now it's becoming reality, and it's spreading like wildfire, right? And so people first they won't trust it, but we're going to be talking, and we'll do this call again in like 3 years time, right? And it's going to be almost like forgot that when there wasn't 100 million people in DeFi and just moving money, exchanging money, doing this without central authorities, and just earning interest on this. I mean, it's just it is just exploding. So I think that's the thing. I think for myself, that's what the most exciting thing right now.
Wow, that's portraying huge global shifts in the way we interact with each other, but also power structures. That's what I hear through there. I mean, Nigeria is clamping down on Bitcoin right now, so there's going to be probably some shifts in power structures as well. So very, very, very interesting.
Well, Tim, I can't thank you enough for the time today, and we didn't really dive into kind of what we're collaborating on. I thought this was like a great way to kind of introduce you to our ecosystem, what you guys are up to, and for the broader community, we've got some pretty interesting announcements coming up that we're not, as we said, not unfolding today, but Tim, we're really excited to collaborate with you all. You are the exact profile of a company and backgrounds that we get excited to build the future with. So I can't thank you enough.
No, thank you guys. Thanks, Ben and Matthias. It's great to be on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Any closing remarks, or and then feel free to jump off, and I'll kind of talk through a few bullet points with our broader community.
appreciate guys for having me, and we'll have to do it again sometime after we get some actual real collaboration that's kind of in development.
Soon then.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tim.
Right. Cheers.
Well, community, this has been an early morning for me and kind of hitting a lot of different time zones. Thanks for being flexible and jumping through here. Pretty exciting. I had a tweet last night that I was so excited to share with everybody, because what has been going on for the past several years in developing our tokenomics has been, it's been a challenge, because as everything we do at Constellation, we want to do thinking 5 to 10 years out from now. And what we've been doing a really good job of is showing how that impacts us today. And so with launching of the mainnet, to seeing how rewards flow and building liquidity in our ecosystem, we felt it appropriate to redo our tokenomics to really explain this global shift that Matthias was talking about, and how our perspective impacts that. So maybe some of you read the CryptoRand interview that I did this week. That kind of set the tone on how we perceive money and the transfer of value. And what will come out tomorrow will really be a fully baked vision mapped with mathematics, and then underlying different use cases and projects that are already building on Constellation. And so this is like, we all had a moment yesterday where we just started clapping and laughing, and because it's nothing we've seen out there. And I think we've all done a ton of research on different tokenomics that with Constellation, it's not simply a copy paste. We have a feeless transaction ecosystem for a reason, and you're going to see that reason and why we've talked about the things that we're doing and how all of Benjamin Diggle's efforts relate to that, how Lattice relates to that, and then how it relates to you at the end of the day, who will be able to build applications. So we're really excited about this, and this has created a whole slew of new partnerships that are coming in every day asking to fit into our ecosystem. So the course of the next month or next 2 months, you're going to see a lot of the clarity come together on how our ecosystem is a clear competitor to Polkadot, clear competitor to Ethereum, with more quality control by our community, and better articulation, as well as a clear roadmap for every project that builds on us. So I'm really excited about this, as well as kind of announcing some stuff with Yield App. That's coming up as well. It's a pretty amazing partnership. Matthias?
Yeah,
any other thoughts on that?
No, I
just threw you in there at the last minute.
No, you really pointed it out well. I mean, I want to reiterate maybe on 2 points, which is one, yes, a competitor in that sense with Ethereum and Polkadot, that we're all thriving to develop better technology, right? And Polkadot has their own approach, Serum has their own approach, there are various other ones out there, but so we are all competing in the sense of who creates the better technology. But I think many of those guys, Matic or Ethereum, whoever you have, Serum, they have very specific use cases that they are nailing, and they're really good at that. And we're not really trying to compete with their use cases. What we do as a layer zero, we supply a technology infrastructure that allows those guys to be even more successful, because now they gain cross-chain liquidity. They can transact seamlessly with other native ecosystems. So the way we see it, yes, we are in a race for the better technology, but at the same time, the layer zero makes it a little more intelligent in the way it's like, okay, you have something really great with a high market cap. Let's partner up on this and make your solution even more widely known to everybody else. So that means the future we're envisioning is actually a future where Amatic is partnered with us. They've nailed the NFT use case. We're not trying to compete on the NFT use case. That's not our business, but we allow them to be cross-chain liquid with everybody else and be more successful to a wider audience, which then, of course, us as a layer zero, when you will see those tokenomics, you will understand how all tide the other way around, how the tide lifts all boats. So this is how it all fits into each other. And to Ben's words, Many people approached us and we've been mulling over tokenomic models. And the reality is everything we're seeing in this industry or have been seeing up to this point is more or less an altered version of Bitcoin's initial tokenomics. And Bitcoin's tokenomics have something very specific in them, which is the hash rate difficulty adjustment factor that causes a floating equilibrium between price, hash power, selling pressure and all those things. So it creates this floating floor that is hinged around the hash rate adjustment or the hash rate difficulty factor. Now, and everybody just copy pasted that because they were based off of a proof of work. And then proof of stake is just, okay, you put something in a bucket and then you get something out of it. Okay, that's kind of like simplistic. That is not really, that's not a challenging thing to solve for. But what is really different, and I always say DAG is different, is that we have a novel infrastructure that has a very different logic beneath it. And that logic is entirely different. So it requires people to really dive into it and understand how nodes and consensus and state channels actually really interact with each other. And how does that whole ecosystem or web of interrelations, how can you build a tokenomics that is actually built around true utility? And then if you think about these things, you will see that just a Bitcoin copy-paste model doesn't cut it, because we want to tie it to real utility, to real economic value and entrepreneurial value while incentivizing, while being fee-free. And that's a big challenge and has been a big challenge, but ultimately we solved, and specifically Wired solved that issue. And that's why we're very, very proud about that token paper, because it's going to set an entirely new standard of how network tokenomics and network incentivization actually looks like. And with that, it's like a baby born.
You could tell Matthias is excited.
That's baby has been in labor for 2 years, and it's been a pain, because we started out with like a simple, copy paste tokenomics, because our technology wasn't ready yet. But as our technology matured, of course, there was the need to actually adjust the tokenomics. So with that tokenomics paper, that's going to be and is the foundation of, quote unquote, the real constellation. And then we have the Node 2.0 coming out a little later. So this is, you could say, our real launch. We have the mainnet, and now we have the economic infrastructure that makes this really real.
Well, thanks, Matthias. I think this is a good point to sign off, and thank everybody. That was a brilliant overview of the tokenomics. So we're excited for tomorrow, and hopefully you all will, and it'll take you a little bit to digest, and we plan on doing a hypergraph hour around that to kind of really let it sink in. So thank you all for joining. We've got more guest speakers coming on in the future, and we're just really excited to have you all here. So thank you all for joining us today, and talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye.